Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our 16th edition of Freethinker Friday. Today, we'll be discussing the global perspectives of the Mountains Park Academy community. I am so excited to be joined by four excellent members of our community. We have joining me today Beth Larson from the class of 2008. Beth is currently a doctoral student at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, and she's studying population, family, and reproductive studies. We have Ishika Muppidi from the class of 2021. Ishika is a senior. She attended MPA from kindergarten through 8th grade and then lived in Mexico City for a few years and has since returned to MPA for her 11th and 12th grade year. Dr. Rita Adaimi is the parent of two lower school students and a third one coming in the fall. And Ian Cunningham is in his second year as a middle school social studies teacher at MPA. So as part of our Freethinker Friday series, we've been discussing a variety of topics. And today, talking about global perspectives, we want to touch on the many different facets of how global the MPA community is. That means teaching about global issues. It means families who have lived abroad and are bringing that experience to our community, to our academics, just to the vibrancy of our school. And it means alumni like Beth who have lived abroad for significant chunks of their post-high school life, or are studying topics that bring together aspects of global perspectives. So we'll start with Beth. And Beth, I'd like to jump in and talk to you a little bit about what you've done since leaving MPA. You shared that your passion for West Africa began at an early age thanks to MPA's Amnesty program. Could you share a little bit more about how the school inspired you on that path, and then where you're currently at and how MPA has sparked your interest in the world?
Yeah, so thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I think the first time that I had experience, or I remember having an experience with MPA's Amnesty program, was when I was in 4th grade. And we had a woman from Senegal come, and she actually ended up doing a few years at MPA. But in 4th grade, I remember that she taught us about Senegal and these different cultures and this different culture in this different place, and taught us about the food that they eat. So we made a jebjen, which is fish and rice, which is the national dish of Senegal. And I remember learning how to count to 5 in Wolof. And so that was really my first experience that I can really remember at MPA that kind of introduced me to the world around me. And that really continued throughout my entire experience. I think one of my favorite things at MPA was going to France with the French department when I was in high school. I still am in connection with the people who I met in France, and I go and I visit them sometimes. Also, I think MPA's emphasis on service played a really large part in me becoming who I am today and ending up where I am. As part of the senior service project, I worked with the Minnesota AIDS Project, advocating for comprehensive sexual education in schools in Minnesota. And I think because of that is where my passion for assuring access to sexual and reproductive health care for women all over the world really started. And then also, I just think that teachers at MPA were always so happy to be there and really loved doing what they were doing and engaging with students. And that really made me want to find something that made me as excited and that I was passionate about. And so again, kind of just learning and engaging with people and finding my way in this world of sexual and reproductive health. And then also, when I was at MPA, privilege right now is a really hot topic, but I don't think it was when you or I were kind of growing up. It was something new. People weren't really engaging with that. And I really appreciate teachers at MPA being willing to engage with these tough discussions. And that really helped me to understand there's something there for me to do in this world.
Yeah. Just briefly, do you want to share a little bit about the 2 years that you spent in Senegal after college?
Yeah. So I've actually lived on and off in Senegal for over 4 years now. So I studied abroad there. One of the reasons why I chose where I went to my undergrad, Lawrence University, everyone should go there, was because they had a study abroad program in Senegal. And so that was just fun. I think it was a typical study abroad experience. But then I have lived there extensively twice, one in a remote community, a rural community, where nobody spoke French, nobody spoke English. And so I think having, gone to MPA and been learning French for basically my entire life made me feel okay and comfortable with entering this new situation where I couldn't even ask how to go to the bathroom the first day I was there. It was crazy. And then I moved back after my master's degree, and I lived in Dakar, which is the capital of Senegal. And I lived there for 2 years working for an NGO. And it was just a really great experience. And I miss it so much. But like working in an office with people of different backgrounds, of course, like most of the people I was working with were from Senegal, but you also had people from all over the world. And being able to learn from other people who come from different backgrounds, who have different perspectives, it's a very fulfilling and wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, thank you. Switching gears a little bit, Rita, I wanted to ask you as well, as we are having some encouragement from Mr. Haberman. Thanks, Mr. Haberman. Rita, you are someone who has relocated to Minnesota, spending much of your life outside the United States, and you brought your 2 children and soon a third to MPA. Talk a little bit about the importance of instilling in your children this sense of global education, a sense of learning about the world.
Yeah, thank you again for having me here with you. And thank you, Beth, for sharing your experience. So we're originally from Lebanon, and I've been in the US for 11 years. And yes, I feel that global education is really important, especially, nowadays, how you see the social media, you feel that the world is really like a unit, like one unit. And so global education is important. It allows especially for my children, I'm talking, so it will help them appreciate diversity. It will teach them about histories, geographies, and cultures, of different sides of the world, which connect them better with the world. And along with that, I feel that global education help them as well be aware of their own culture, and how their culture connects them to other cultures. This is it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and 2 children in lower school here, and certainly the seeds are being planted for a very globally immersive education as they move on to the middle school and the upper school. And Ian, that's a great segue to bring you in. As a middle school teacher, you're having the opportunity to interact with students who have a variety of global perspectives. Maybe they've traveled extensively. Several of our middle school families have lived abroad. Maybe they speak a language other than English at home. You're interacting with people, and they're interacting with you, folks who have had deep, meaningful connections to other parts of the world. How does that help you bring global perspectives to your classroom?
Well, great question, Nate. So it's just phenomenal, the viewpoints and what students can bring to a conversation. This is most apparent in 8th grade. 8th grade social studies formal title is Contemporary Global Issues. And so we go all over the globe talking about current events in many different nations. It's really exciting to have a current events class after many years of learning older history too. And it's just phenomenal. Students who have lived abroad, bring in like, hey, do we have time to talk about this issue in this nation? Absolutely, we do. So it's, it's student crowdsourced kind of what should we focus on. Students can bring their perspectives. And the most important is that helps make meaningful connections, because, I can talk all day. In fact, it's my job too, right? But if the students aren't connecting, it doesn't really add up to much. And it doesn't even need to be current events. 5th grade social studies is ancient world history. And so we go all over the globe. And regarding students traveling, it's amazing. We will, we'll cover ancient Arabia, ancient Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, ancient Europe, and we'll show pictures of things still around today. And someone's like, hey, my, uncle, or I have someone I know who's been there. Can I bring in that photo to share with the class? It's like, yeah, absolutely. So it's just wonderful. Students bring conversation. It helps make those connections.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of those students would be Ishika. Ishika, you and your family lived in Mexico City for several years. I know that your mom works for 3M, which is about 2 miles down the road from us. Many of our families who have a 3M connection have been relocated either to Minnesota, away from Minnesota, to Minnesota, and then away from Minnesota. So a lot of different things with our connection with 3M. But talk about the importance of your experience and how that helped incorporate more of a global perspective for you in your education at MPA.
Yeah, so hi everyone, thank you. I think one way my time and experience in Mexico have definitely helped the way in my education was just having like that first-handed experience living in a different country, especially one I didn't know so much about when I moved there. I mean, I took French until 7th grade, but yeah, essentially just having that experience, I think, really opened up my eyes to new cultures on a deeper level and kind of made me process what was going on outside of my little bubble. I mean, it's like you learn about these international things at school, but witnessing them in person and experiencing a new culture is just so different. And I think in terms of my education, especially knowing and understanding these cultural differences that I hadn't really processed up until now has kind of influenced how I view certain topics. For example, in Spanish class, when we talk about Latin America and how people in countries are affected by different things, one example being actions made by the US government, I'm kind of able to see both sides as I've seen now how people in Mexico react to such actions versus people here. And I think it just allows me overall to have that global and more multi-sided perspective, which is so eye-opening and helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for your perspective on that. I can only imagine what an amazing experience it was to be able to spend 3 years living in Mexico and 3 very formative years. So, Beth, switching back to you, you mentioned this a little bit already. Part of being a global citizen, part of living in this globalized world is the ability to speak a second language. And at MPA, students are taking either French or Spanish, and they start that with a half year of Spanish and a half year of French in kindergarten, and then choose from there. Could you share a little bit about your language experience at MPA? You did a little bit, but how did that help bring you closer to wanting to learn more about the globalized world?
Yeah, so I started French in 1st grade at MPA. I actually wanted to take Spanish, but I guess the Spanish class was full, so I ended up being forced into French. But it is one of the most influential parts of my life. I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to start taking French at such a young age. When I talk to people in French to this day, they ask me like, oh, are you Francophone? Like, are you from Canada? Like, where is your accent from? Do your parents speak French? Like, how are you so good? And I just say, no, I just started taking it when I was 6 years old. And and people are really surprised. And I'm just, again, so grateful to, have had the opportunity to learn how to sing Je suis un pizza when I was in lower school and participate in the national French competitions, and to learn about French. Oh, sorry, my dog is popping up. Learn about French culture and music and all of that. And I think because you start French at such a young age, or a language at such a young age at MPA, by the time you get to high school, you're not just learning grammar, you're learning about la francophonie, you're learning about what it means to have grown up in France or to have grown up in a francophone country. And that really gives you a much deeper appreciation of what it means to be able to speak and be a part of a language and the culture that goes along with it. And because of that, that is why I do have this passion for working in Francophone West Africa. And I have been able to go and spend significant amounts of time of my life there and make really deep and lasting connections with people who don't speak English at all.
Yeah, well, I love to hear that. I also, as an MPA alum, feel that same way about Spanish. It was, very much in the beginning, it was the vocab, and then in the middle years, it was more of the grammar. And then by the time you were getting into high school, it was literature and learning about the history of Spanish-speaking countries, and that really made it come alive. And in my life since graduating, I've lived for a year after college in Spain, which really helped me to solidify that, as Spanish was my minor in college. So what you're saying really resonates with me as well.
Yeah.
I want to invite anyone watching to comment, to ask questions of our panelists. We love to have audience engagement. So if you're tuning in on Facebook Live or YouTube, please feel free to jump in and ask a question or share your reaction to what you've heard. Rita, switching over to you, and you have two young, rising second grader, rising fourth grader next year. So from your parents' perspective and being at MPA for a couple of years, what does a global curriculum look like in the lower school? Are there examples from your children's classes that you can think of, or just kind of a sense that you've gotten from the lower school about how they're looking to instill these values of global learning at that age?
Yes, sure. So I would like to say first that MPA is a very diverse and inclusive school, and the classes themselves, the environment values diversity. And I am very grateful that the teachers actually take all the opportunities to build those connections between the students. And so from my experience with my two lower school students, I know, I mean, they're still in lower school, but they are really, the global education is very well incorporated in their curriculum. For example, when they were learning about the American flag, in first grade, the teacher told them to bring flags from different countries where their parents are from or their grandparents are from. And this is really important in building this, knowledge at this age. And they were so happy to share different countries' flags and what it symbolizes. And this was very important. And another example, there are many examples because it's a really global education curriculum that I really appreciate. And so the other example is when they were learning about money. So they got to bring money, currencies from different countries and share it with their friends. And this is important as well. The other thing is the second language. So both my daughters, they do French, and, learning French cuisine and tasting it as well, the French language, the countries that speak French, all around the world. It's really very important. And I think it helps in raising and educating global citizens at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And many experts have said that French will become among the most important languages in the 21st century due to population growth in Francophone countries. Of course, we also offer Spanish, which is so important here in the United States. And then as students get into their 11th and 12th grade years, or 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years, we offer the chance through our Malone Scholars online network, which is a virtual group of classes. We offer students the chance to take Mandarin or Arabic as well. So that's pretty cool, really, to take four and with English, 5 of the most important languages in the world. Ishika, talking to you a little bit about from the student's perspective, what does global thinking, what does the global perspective in the curriculum look like in the upper school? You talked about Spanish a little bit. What else have you seen?
Yeah, so I actually think MPA does like a really good job with this. I know as students, we have many options to take classes that explore global thinking, such as AP World Religions, and Global Voices. Personally, I took Global Voices, which is an English class where we look at literature from international authors, such as Junot Diaz and Chimamanda Adichie. And we kind of look into and analyze how international events and different cultures have impacted the literature that we are reading, kind of making us look at stories of the authors from their own global perspective. And we do this with authors from all around the world, not just one particular region. So it's very well balanced. And additionally, another thing MPA has is the Global Graduate Certificate of Distinction, which is also something I'm a part of. And although it's not part of the direct curriculum, it is something students can do in which they read books, listen to speakers, and visit places and cultures in their community to kind of enhance their global understanding. And then they reflect on that experience. So overall, I would say that these are sort of the ways that MPA has kind of incorporated global thinking into the upper school curriculum, all which are very good.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad that you brought up the global certificate, or sorry, graduate certificate of distinction in global studies. There are 3 different GCDs at MPA. One is in global, another is fine arts, and the third is in technology. And Ishika, it sounds like you're a part of the global program. And as she mentioned, yeah, that the requirements for that are doing research on a variety of global topics. Travel is highly encouraged for that, and then you actually get a teacher mentor who helps work with you throughout that process. It shows colleges that you're really focused on this particular issue. It's almost like declaring a minor in some ways, and so it's a really excellent new program that we have, and it helps students who have a deep passion, and Ishika, it sounds like you do, to show that off to the community and to prospective colleges. Ian, switching gears a little bit down to our middle school, and you as a teacher, you mentioned a few examples, 8th grade global studies, 5th grade ancient cultures. What does that look like overall in the middle school? How are we incorporating this kind of a global mindset, global thinking, global perspective into the curriculum?
So middle school is a time to kind of figure out who you're going to be in adolescence, right? So you have left the lower school, you no longer have a uniform, very exciting, right? And so it's kind of, to put it crudely, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, right? So we have you trying out a lot of different things across many different classes. Our 6-block schedule allows 11 or 12 classes middle schooler takes, and that's just at the quarter and semester break. It even swaps to be more. And I think that it is just woven beautifully into our curriculum. I want to specifically shout out the middle school music program. I am just blown away with what I hear. Students are performing songs from all over the world, researching too, not just playing, but knowing the composition behind it, or maybe if there is like a cultural history with the rhythm or anything. It's just phenomenal. It's awesome to see what they bring into class, like during an advisory study hall, to see what they're doing there. And also, as we've been mentioning, the world language program is just, it's wonderful how culture is woven in. It is not just, let's just talk about Spain and France. It's talk about every nation that speaks Spanish or French, how the culture has evolved, how the language may not, or is a little bit different than it may be in Spain or France, but how it has changed over time and things like that. So students really, lots of opportunity, lots of chances, many different perspectives in to help them kind of see, oh, what is my interest there? Or, oh, I really like that. And then in upper school, I get a chance to pursue that even farther.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Switching gears to Beth, in your research, in your work, in your PhD program at Johns Hopkins, and your experience working in Senegal and Francophone Africa, what have you seen are some of the critical skills that one needs to possess in succeeding in a globalized world?
Yeah, so I think one of them, and we've already touched on this, and I'll just bring it up one more time, is the ability to communicate. And so language. We actually, where I currently work, really struggle to find people who speak French. And I am positive that I have gotten jobs because of my ability to speak French. And so I think it's just, again, like what MPA offers in terms of having a language for so long, like that's so incredibly important for being able to work in a more globalized world. And then also some other aspects, patience and adaptability. So, things might not go how you think they should go, or how you planned, or on the timelines that you want, but everything always works out, and it always gets done, and often it ends up being better than you would have expected. You need to have understanding and appreciation and empathy, and know that you're there to learn, and the people who you're working with are there to learn, or there to teach you just as much as you're there to collaborate and work with them. And so you really need to embrace the differences that this diverse set of backgrounds are bringing to the field where you're working. And then also, I think understanding that not everyone has the same background and the same motivations for the work, which has been a very hard lesson for me to learn in working in international development, when you come from a place of privilege and you're really there to kind of come and make a difference, but understanding that many people are just working and have a job, and that's great, and we're all bringing different perspectives. And then finally, I think collaboration. I kind of have touched on this a few times, but being able to collaborate with different people with different viewpoints, and really being aware that when you're coming from the US and you're working in a place, especially me, a white woman working in Francophone West Africa, like I'm coming from a place of privilege, and I need to be aware of that and change how I'm engaging and working with people. And I think a lot of these are skills that I learned throughout my career at MPA.
Yeah. Well, a few of the pieces there that you brought up, collaboration, communication, creativity, those are part of what we call our 6 C's of 21st century learning. And these 6 C's are sort of what guides the pedagogy of MPA, and instilling in these important skills, like you just said, for a 21st century life, for a 21st century globalized world. So pivoting a little bit, Rita, I'd like to ask you about your experience in the parent community. We do have in our school a number of families just like yours who have grown up outside the United States, or have spent time living abroad, or speak multiple languages at home. How has the parent community at MPA contributed to your overall sense of the school, and to the school's overall sense of a global perspective?
I think so. So parents community is diverse by itself. This contributes to build really global perspectives when you see parents volunteering and giving some ideas. And during the pandemic, it was a little bit hard to build this connection between the families, but still, as you were talking about creativity, MPA kept this creativity by doing some outdoor walks and going to the farmer markets, and this helped in connecting families together and sharing their cultures and backgrounds, and this is very important. And I remember as well last year the culture day that was done at MPA, and it was a wonderful opportunity for families to connect, to learn about different cultures, and for the students as well. It's really important. And it was fun and informative at the same time, learning about different customs and habits. And we would love, when the pandemic hopefully is over soon, and this will come back, because it was really important. And I would like to add also the family buddy system that you do at MPA when there is a new family that so it will be connected to a more established family at MPA. This as well builds connection and helps really in this global perspective, building this global perspectives at MPA, because many families come from other countries and have different backgrounds, and connecting different backgrounds together is really important. And I mean, it's a natural, I feel that you have this diversity that is here naturally, just you don't really need a lot of hard work to work on it. But still, of course, we need to incorporate it more as in the curriculum, but it's here. So let's benefit from this really nice diversity. And so thank you so much. And I think that students will feel that they belong. Anyone can feel that they belong. So this is important.
Yeah, thank you. We just have about a little bit over a minute left, so maybe I have 2 more questions that I want to get in, and let's do the elevator speech version of this. But Ishika, you spent last summer working at Breakthrough Twin Cities. Breakthrough Twin Cities, for those who don't know, is a college access program that helps underprivileged students in our area work towards college and get basically summer programming to help them work towards college. How did that experience working with students from diverse backgrounds who maybe spoke multiple languages, some of whom were probably first-generation Americans, how did that help you develop more of a global perspective in your education, in the elevator speech version here?
So I would say it's kind of similar to the experience I gained from Mexico, in the sense that I was kind of able to see some of those cultural differences, and also, quite frankly, economic differences that might not have been so obvious in other places. And so working with these students as a teacher, you're able to get very close to them. And so this really helped me develop a global perspective kind of from their side as well, and how they were going to, because they would share about their lives. And so I was able to kind of see their side of things and kind of apply that into my perspective and education at MPA. And I was able to kind of see how my generation differed so greatly, and once again, kind of apply that to my class and education in MPA.
Yeah, thank you. And in the interest of time, I'm going to jump to Ian really quick. Ian, to close our discussion, we talk a lot about what we wish for students in 20 years. And so thinking about this through the lens of creating global citizens, what are you wishing for your middle school students in 20 years?
I'm happy that we practice our elevator speech in 8th grade, so I'm ready too. So the key word for my hope is empathy. Without empathy, it will not progress how I hope. So what I mean by that is, as cheesy as it sounds, we are preparing students for jobs that do not exist quite yet, or we are preparing them to solve some great world problems. And they are learning a lot, especially in middle school with science and seminar, the equitable design. And in order to solve a problem, its foundation is empathy. And empathy does not come without understanding, or, as Beth touched on, collaboration. So I hope that students can take their learning from Mounds Park and let it just, build upon their foundation into whatever they choose to do with their lives and help solve problems with empathy.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Beth, Ishika, Rita, Ian, thank you so much for spending a half hour with me, sharing more about how the MPA community is building the global perspective of students and how we are incorporating the globalized world into our own world here on campus. And to everyone who tuned in, thank you so much for joining us for our 16th Freethinker Friday. We will see you next month talking about the college search process. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.